through the House. Chris Farfoy.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, to be able to take a chance to take a call on the third reading of the bail amendment bill. I do want to say and just address some of the comments by the Green Party member Jan Logie, because as a member of the Law and Order Select Committee, and I acknowledge the others that are here today, this is a very complicated issue. And I just want to touch on something that Ian McKelvey has just said, as I think I was at the same session as him when we visited the Wellington District Court to see the process when judges are making the decision around granting bail. To an extent, and I think it probably be for about 85% of those decisions, are very fast decisions made in a kind of factory floor kind of way. But there are a number of offenders who are coming into the court system where, as we've seen by what has unfortunately happened, the decision by judges hasn't necessarily been the best one, and there's been reoffending while someone has been put out on bail. And I guess while we support this piece of legislation with reservation, as my colleague Andrew Little has said, we think, and we've supported it because of this piece of legislation is trying to get the balance right between the rights of offenders, the rights of victims, and making sure that certainly a public mood of discontent of people out there being victims of offenders who have been put out on bail and a growing unrest that just wasn't good enough. I also want to acknowledge some of the submitters who came to the Law and Order Select Committee. There was one particular session that Mark Mitchell from across the other side of the House has mentioned when we were all in Auckland about a year ago, which was a particularly tough day to sit through those submissions, and obviously much, much tougher for those people to come and give their submissions to us because, and I do want to acknowledge the Marceau family, Tracy Marceau, the mother of Christy Marceau, and also one for me that stuck out and still I remember quite vividly, and that was Charlie Burrell, the father of Augustine Burrell, the young teenager who was killed in Auckland. Those two submissions, I think, brought it home to a lot of the people in that select committee about the real pain that is caused by offenders who are going out there while on bail and, in those two cases, committing the ultimate crime. So I know it's, and I don't say that the concerns that the Jan Logie has are unfounded and are not passionate, but I think as a member of that committee, I think we needed to do something to appease or to please those families out there who didn't do it just because of their own personal pain, but were doing it to make sure that they wanted to prevent that happening to other families as well. So I just want to, I don't think I could let that go without a response, just to say that this is certainly on the Labour Party side of things, while this is a National Party piece of legislation, we do support it because we do know that there needs to be a greater protection for the public out there, especially when you're looking at the type of offenders who were granting bail here. So I just wanted to make that comment. Again, to those families and friends of people who are out there submitting to us, thank you, because it took a lot of courage to do that. There were some very emotional moments, and I thank them for making those submissions. And I also acknowledge Ian McKelvey and Jackie Dean from the other side of the House, and I think who else is here today? That's probably breaking standing orders, but the other members of the Law and Order Select Committee. The headline clauses in this piece of legislation, Mr Speaker, are clauses 7 and 8, and they are where we've got the reverse burden of proof for those people who have been convicted of previous crimes and who are charged with murder and other serious offences. And I think one of the things that has already been mentioned here today has been giving judiciary better tools to be able to make better decisions when it comes to these bail applications. We certainly heard from the police around their processes around when they are opposing bail, but there was some suggestion, and hopefully the Minister might be able to address this in the piece of legislation that she said will be brought to the House, is giving our bench much better risk assessment tools, so when a tricky case does turn up, that they may be able to make much more informed choices. We did hear about the Rockroy system that corrections use to be able to assess how dangerous an inmate is and whether or not they will offend while they're incarcerated, and that may be able to be taken and used in a court setting. There was one submitter, and I think, if I'm just reading my notes here correctly, Susan Platt, who had done a bit of research into some kind of risk assessment tool internationally. She said that nothing had been done as of yet from all the international research and stuff that she was looking at, and that New Zealand could be a world leader if it took the case to be able to have a risk assessment tool for our judiciary. And I think hopefully that may be something that New Zealand can do. Because if we were able to do that and be able to use the technology that we could pioneer and have in place, other countries could look at us to be able to make their communities much safer as well. As I said earlier, there are some reservations that we do have around this piece of legislation, and one of those reservations has already been touched on by both members on this side of the House already, but also by the Minister of Justice, Judith Collins, and that is the delays in the court system at this stage. I'm not going to traverse that too much because I think what has been said has already been said, and I think it's good that the Justice Minister has acknowledged that is a problem, and hopefully that will be addressed in the piece of legislation that she brings to the House. I don't think I need to take up much more time with the House, Mr Speaker. I just want to acknowledge once again the submitters who came to the Law and Order Select Committee, and while we do have some reservations, we do support this legislation.
Tauruhi Henare, the Honourable.
Speaker, I'm pleased to take a quick call in this